Thanks for joining us for our pre-Indianapolis 500 media briefing. Our guest this morning is HPD President Art St. Cyr. Art, thanks for making time to spend with us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Pretty good days in Honda Land so far during the month of May. Basically, just want to get your evaluation of the month to date and kind of explain to us what has happened in terms of preparation for the Super Speedways.
Well, as I told many of you, that the Indy 500, right, is a major focus for Honda. Actually, it's a major focus for most people in IndyCar, and we really worked hard for 12 months really on this particular race. We worked hard on. We used 2 of our 3 allocated boxes for from an aerodynamic standpoint on this race. We have a pretty major upgrade in our engine specification for this race. So as you've seen, it's fairly competitive at this point, and really our whole goal is really to get all of our teams with a package that is capable of winning this race.
Certainly we've seen a nice mix of teams over the course of the month, taking their turns at the top of the speed charts. Obviously, Indy Autosport came out of the gate really strong as we continued that momentum throughout the month. The Schmidt team won the pole and placed 3 cars in the top 10. Various times Graham's had a strong run. Even Dale Coyne Racing has been heard from in terms of being on top of the speed charts. So that kind of bears out the point you just made.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's really all you can hope for, right, as a manufacturer, is to have all of your teams really have a good package for this race. The eyes of the world will be, once Monaco is done, right, the eyes of the world will be on this race on Sunday. So, it's pretty great. The Andretti guys, the whole Andretti team, all 5 of their cars have been fast, and they unloaded fast. They typically do really well here. So we expect good things out of them. The Schmidt-Peterson Racing Group, all 3 of them have just had stellar months. You want to give some shout outs to Dale Coyne and those guys who have shown pretty good speed, with people that don't have a lot of experience running around this track. The AJ Foyt and Takuma Sato showed up something at the end of qualifying, right? I think they qualified 12th or 3rd in the last group, right? So all of our teams, and Graham, we expect to have a really good race as well. So all of our teams have legitimate contenders to win this race. So we're actually really thrilled about that.
Just for some informational purposes, how much support is HPD providing? Please talk to the specifics of HPD support at the 500 in terms of personnel on staff, those kinds of things.
Well, I don't know where to start, because we do have, as I said, we do put a lot of focus on this particular race, right? Of course, we want to win every race, but if you're looking at the one specific race that you want to win during the IndyCar season, it's this race right here. So we have our typical staff that we have supporting the engines, right? We have 1 engineer per engine, and then we have a supervising engineer over the teams, and then we have 1, lead engineer that's supervising all of the teams as well. But in addition to that, we've had our vehicle dynamics people here, we've had our aerodynamics people here, we've had our chassis group, both manager and senior manager here, working with the teams, helping them dial in their setup to run the car the way they want to run. As you know, adding the dome skid this year and raising the ride height of the car has thrown a little bit of the setups into turmoil. So, I think a lot of the credit goes to the teams and also the HPD staff to really work to get this thing dialed in to really be fast going on this track.
Trackside support aside, talk a little bit, if you would, about what's going on back in Santa Clarita while we're all here during the month of May.
Well, I mean, we were joking that we were at a dinner the other night, and there's maybe that's a different story, but now that I think about it. But again, this race is so important that we focus on this race. So we have a daily and have had a daily meeting with HPD, and that includes Saturday and Sunday. So 7 days a week we've been having daily meetings with HPD back in Santa Clarita to talk about engine, to talk about aero, talk about any issues that we have. What can we do to dial things up? We do some testing here on the track. We take that information, send it back to HP. They run stuff on the dyno to try to just dial it in and polish it a little bit more to make sure that when the race comes on Sunday, that it is the optimal setup that we're capable of giving the teams.
So let's set the 500 aside for just a moment and look another week ahead to Detroit, where there's a doubleheader race on Belle Isle next weekend, back on a temporary street circuit. Certainly building a lot of momentum here this month based on the performance of the engines. Give us a little bit of an outlook as we go back to street racing next week on Belle Isle.
Well, I mean, as most people know, it's concerning the aerodynamic kit, right? We basically had a whole new aerodynamic kit this year for the road course, and we've been spending some time. It's taken us a little bit of time to dial in that kit for our teams. To understand that new kit, going against a team that's had over a year. The other side has had a whole year to dial in their kit, so it's taken us a little while to get our traction. But I think people and the teams are really starting to understand how that kit works, how it works on street and road courses. Combine that with the upgrade, the engine that we have here, and my belief is that we're going to be much more competitive moving forward than we have been in the beginning part of the season. So we're looking forward to continuing on after the Indy 500 as well. But right now, as I mentioned before, our focus right now, as a company and as a group of Honda teams, we're focused on this event on Sunday.
With that, we'll open it to questions for Art. Everybody, Patrick.
How much of it is the improved engine aerodynamic package versus how much of it's the focus versus the actually improved hardware? I guess it seems like you're very much focused on Indy. Has the intention and the engineering been the big change, with the big move forward, or is it the actual hardware part?
So the question, as I understand it, is it more the fact that we're focusing the Indy 500 that we're better, or the fact that we actually made hardware changes that we attribute most of our improvement to? Well, and the answer is yes. So, obviously by focusing on it, right, we spent a lot of time in the wind tunnel focusing specifically on this event, on Super Speedway. This is our first Super Speedway, and over the last month or two, we've probably spent a disproportionate amount of time at the wind tunnel trying to dial in our suspension or our aerodynamic setup, our chassis setup on this. So, but as I mentioned, we do have two boxes that we used specifically for this race. Two of our three allocated boxes, under the aerodynamic rules, our 9.2 boxes are used for this race. And as I did mention, we do have an upgrade in our engine spec as well. So I would say, 58% is no, but honestly, it's everything, right? You don't win a race by just improving one thing, and improve everything, right? The teams are doing a great job. The setups that the teams put on the cars are looking really strong. Our aerodynamic package is looking really strong. Our engine is looking really strong. Our drivers are performing great. So all of those things are contributing to, it's a little bit of each of those things, I guess, would be the way that I would say it.
So if you were to sit there December 1st and planning out the year, is it going according to the plan? You kind of know, hey, we're so focused on Indy, we might be giving up a little bit early on.
We weren't expecting the outcome of the first few races that we got this year. We thought we were going to be okay, but obviously when we first came out at St. Pete and especially in Phoenix, right, we really had to focus on those as well. So it's, I wouldn't say the beginning part of the season went according to plan, but we kind of know what we have right now and where we're going with this one. So we're working, the other side's working as well, right, to try to improve as much as you can.
Lewis.
Mark, you said that this was a new spec for non-engineers. How much leeway do you have in bringing out a new spec? And as a follow-up, considering the mileage cap, what do you have to do to make the Indy engine run at Detroit?
So the question was, what are we allowed to change, as we move forward, and how are we managing the engine spec for this race and moving forward until we mileage it out? So from an engine spec standpoint, so this year there's actually a little. So to simplify it, the way that the IndyCar rules are, is that each year you're allowed to change certain parts of the engines. So some years that there's bigger changes, some years there's smaller changes allowed. This year, this off season, we're allowed to make a few bigger changes than normal. So our expectations were the power jump would be bigger this year. There are also parts that are always allowed to be upgraded, things like pistons and valves. At any time you introduce a new spec engine, you can change those. So we really looked at this. This is really our second engine of the year. I mean, it's actually our third, but that gets a little bit because you're allowed to do a change for the race. But anyway, it's basically the second spec of the engine. So in that, right, we're allowed to make those changes, and like I said, this was a pretty big year to make changes. So we were allowed to introduce some of those things a little bit later than we did at the first part of this season. So I know I'm being very kind of general on that one, but our improvement at this point was actually a decent step.
Bruce.
And to finish the second part of your question is that the engine, the way the rules are, the engine has to go 2,500 miles. So we expect to whatever the 2,500 miles we don't use here, we're just going to continue on until mileage is out. No changes.
Now, Bruce.
Have you sacrificed any fuel mileage for the added horsepower?
I'm not sure what you mean by sacrifice per se, because
Well, in the past, the Honda's got better fuel mileage than the Chevy.
well, and our expectation, I mean, all Hondas get better gas mileage. I mean, whether it's a passenger car or whether it's a sorry, maybe I should say all of them. That's a little bit of a misnomer, but we work hard. I mean, it's one of the strong points in Honda is doing, is making sure we have good fuel economy. So there is no reason to expect any different with this specification. That we believe we're going to be okay when it comes to fuel mileage.
Mark.
You had a couple of engine issues in practice the last 2 weeks. Do you have a handle on those? Were they the same failure on both cars? And if so, do you know what the problem was, and has it been fixed?
So those two engine failures, well, actually we had three engine failures, were, well, they know we had three. that's not a secret. But yeah, those engines were shipped back to HPD. We did some analysis and we made some changes because of that. So we don't expect to have any. We think we have a handle on what's going on, and we don't expect any problems moving forward. But again, the other side's had failures as well, right? So one of the things about this event is you're always running your engine on the edge of explosion, right, at any given time, right, to try and get the maximum power out of the thing. So that there's always some unknown when you get to a 500-mile race.
Patrick.
Let's go back to two pieces there. The Honda always gets better fuel mileage part, and then the engine explosion thing. How far up the edge are you willing to go for the 500? I mean, you feel like you can sell out for it and a little bit, and then deal with Detroit down the line?
It's a hard question to answer at this point. It really depends on how the race goes. As to what we're going to do with our engines, but our expectations is that we'll run this 500-mile race, including all the practices that we have leading up to it, and then mileage it out at Detroit and Texas. Yeah, so I'd mileage it out accordingly. So we don't expect to have any problem. We don't expect to short-live this engine because of the 500. How's that?
Okay. From an engineering standpoint, how much do you guys feel like you're learning that you can then convert to the passenger side with this kind of exercise here this year?
It's a little bit different when you're talking about peak performance here, because we don't really run passenger car engines at the red line limit that much. So more in terms of the overall technology and developing the technology for robustness and that type of stuff is the thing that you learn in racing versus the how to operate the engine in these conditions, because it's a pretty unique environment here that's very different from passenger cars.
Bruce.
After all you've been through the last couple of years and all the hits Honda's taken, how redemptive would it be to win on Sunday?
I'm hesitating because I'm afraid of what the quote's going to be right on this one. But the question is, after the struggles that Honda has had over the last season and a half or so, how redemptive would it be if we win? Well, part of Honda's existence, right, is to win at racing. So it's always our goal and always our challenge whether we're behind or whether we're ahead, to really work forward to try to win these races. Obviously this is a big race for us, so we would be very happy. I'm not sure if I'd call it redemption, because I don't think we need necessarily redemption on that, because it's what we do. We're a racing organization. If we're behind, we just work that much harder to catch up and then get ahead. So it's our expectation to be at this point. Now, to win the 100-500, whether it's this one or last year or next year, we're going to be just as happy winning all of those things. So, it's more about winning the race than anything else.
Mark?
IndyCar has been trying for years to get another manufacturer in the series. And Mark Miles mentioned yesterday that he was talking to, he's going to be talking to a third one. But they have been unsuccessful so far in getting a third one to come in. Can you give us some idea as to what the financial commitment is, either overall over like 5 years or 3 years? Is it that big of a commitment that they can't get another manufacturer? What kind of dollars are we talking about? In round numbers.
Well, I can't go into specifics about what that is, because I don't know. I know how much that we spend. I don't know how much the other side would spend. I don't know how much a third manufacturer would spend. One thing I will say is that in part of our negotiations in extending our contract, part of when we were making the rules package for the engine that exists right now, we were the sole supplier at the time when we were making that rules package, is that we developed the rules package to incorporate enough flexibility to allow for another manufacturer to come in, at a what we consider a reasonable price, on doing that. Now, obviously, it's difficult to come in, right? If you're a third manufacturer, come in at a time when both the competition and Honda has been working and developing this engine for 5 years. So to get another manufacturer in, we want to have a kind of a break where we can have a different specification, so we can start kind of on level ground as well, and that's part of not just Honda's intention, but also what IndyCar is working on, and as I said in our contract negotiations, to try to allow for that break, to allow a third manufacturer to come in and have a reasonable chance of being successful.
I'm going to take one more question. Patrick?
Slightly different. From a marketing and promotion side, how many dealers, Honda Racing Line people, guys that run in the CCA, etc., or your other series that you that Honda works in, how many of those kind of people have you brought in for the 500?
Well, I know, where's Kurt?
Oh, standing right
He's
there.
standing right there. So Kurt Antonias is Antonias here is leading our. We have a whole dealer group that's coming in. I think Kurt just told me we have 80 dealers. Is that what?
Yeah, we've got 80 dealers from all over the United States that are here.
So and specifically from a Honda dealer standpoint, we have a bunch of them from across the country. We don't specifically have a group of some of our grassroots stuff or SCCA, but there are a lot of Honda Racing Line members here, and we do say hi to them as we see them, and try to give them the support that to tie in what they do and what we do here.
With that, because I made a commitment to our good friend Michael Knight that I would wrap up soon enough to get over to his media event in a few minutes, we're going to wrap it up. Art, thanks for making the time to be with us today. Thank you all for joining us. Enjoy the 100th running of IndyCar.